Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Drewski with Cryptid Warfare and Conspiracies Podcast and CW Operations and Survival. Guys, I hope you guys had a blessed week. I know there's a lot of things going on throughout the world, especially in California right now. So we just pray for everybody over there. I want to give a shout out to my buddy AG. Blessings to you, brother. Definitely be praying for you out there. A couple family members of mine. So yeah, everyone out there in California, use your heads, think wisely, and yeah, we're praying for you guys. And as far as that, if you guys got any encounters, you guys got any prayer requests, anything at all, you guys just want to be on the podcast, shoot me an email, cryptidwarfare@gmail.com. That's cryptidwarfare@gmail.com. And yeah, we will gladly get back with you guys. So other than that, if you guys got any spiritual warfare aspects, anything, any critter hitters for hire you guys need help with, go ahead and shoot CW Operations an email. That's c.woperations17905@gmail.com. Hit them up. And other than that, guys, we are good to go. So, guys, I'm going to introduce to you Zachary King. That's all I'm going to say. So, you know what? Buckle up. Get ready. Let's do this. Zach, brother, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, it's a trip. I heard your testimony and your story on the Confessionals podcast. Gosh, like back in like 2016, 2017. Yeah, it was amazing. But yeah, other than that, yeah, just if you want to go ahead and just take it away, just go for it, brother. The floor is yours. I will be interjecting a little bit every now and then, but man, just go for it, man. Just tell us your story.
All right. Well, I got started when I was about 10 years old. And by the time I was 10 years old, I had seen every movie that was on television about magic. And I wanted magic to be real. And I went to my Baptist preacher and my parents, and I said, is magic real? Is this something I can really do? I mean, Doug Henning was coming on television all the time, and he was doing sleight of hand and card tricks and illusions. But that's not the kind of magic I want. I want the kind that I saw in the comic books that Doctor Strange would do, or the kind that somebody dressed in a black robe would do in a scary movie, or levitation of some kind. Superman could levitate. He could fly, and if I could do a magic spell so I could fly to school and pass all my friends that are walking, I mean, how dull is that? You got to walk to school. I can fly there. I thought I'd be the coolest kid in school. And at the same time as that, on the first day of school, I'm in the 5th grade, and this kid comes up and he says, meet me in the bathroom at the first break. Well, there's no warnings back then. We don't have the internet to tell us not to do that. If somebody says, meet me in the bathroom, don't go. No one's saying stuff like that. We're 10 years old. We're innocent. And I'm supposed to meet this kid in the bathroom at 10:20. So I did. And there was, we had brand new school, brand new bathrooms, and the bathrooms were gigantic. At my old school, you could maybe fit 10 kids in the bathroom if you were lucky. But in here, we had like 50 kids. And it's boys and girls in the same bathroom, which was weird. Oh. And he said, we're going to turn out the lights, chant a phrase a certain number of times, and if you do it right, the spirit of a burn victim will show up in the mirror. Nobody believes that. It's like, we're going to do what? And then what's going to happen? Whatever. So at that school, since the school was brand new, they had a new lighting system where you had to be a teacher and have this special key to turn on the lights. Well, some genius figured out that if you unraveled a paperclip, you could stick that in there and turn on the lights. And it was like, wow, I didn't know you could do that. All right, cool. And, so he's like, so we're going to turn out the lights and chant this phrase and see what happens. Nobody believes anything's going to happen. First apprehension is that he turns out the lights, and some of these kids are not used to being in the dark. So some of these kids are starting to panic because they're in the dark, And we have to tell them, hey, you're still in the door with us. It's just us.
Yeah.
No one else is here. There's no teacher in here. There's no parents in here. It's just the kids. Now they're starting to calm down a little bit. So then we chant the phrase a certain number of times, and the spirit of a burn victim shows up in the mirror. Now, we're agreeing that it's the spirit of a burn victim because the skin is black, it looks charred, and the face looks melted. There's parts of the upper skin of the lip that are stretched down to the lower lip, and it's got like this grimace on its face and sharp teeth. 49 kids did not have the chance to examine that like me. 49 kids ran screaming out of the bathroom. One kid, he's an idiot, I can say that because it was me, stood there and looked at that and thought, that's the coolest thing ever. I did that. I said that phrase, X number of times. I made that face appear. I'm cool. Look at me. I made you appear. Now, it's not talking to me. It doesn't look happy, but it's not like mad or angry at me. It's like, I just got here. But remember that if you're seeing it in the mirror, that's not some distant land 3,000 miles away where you've tapped into like some castle in England or something. And it's not even the room behind the mirror. If you're seeing that demon in the mirror, he's standing next to you. I'm not smart enough to figure that out. And eventually, notes got sent home that said that if your child is caught playing this game at school, they'll be suspended for 3 days. And, I go into the den and I give my dad the note. And generally, my dad just takes the note, signs it, and throws it back at me. Doesn't care what's in it. He's reading the paper. But today, he's reading the paper, but he takes my paper and he reads it. And in his normal loving tone, asks me, have you been playing this game? And being terrified of my dad as I am, I told him 100% the truth. No. So that I wouldn't get caught and spend 3 lovely days with my dad, I started playing the game at home. Now, when I played it at school, there was once a day.
Yeah.
Now, though, that I'm able to play it at home, I play it when I wake up during the night to go to the bathroom. When I get up in the morning and I go to the bathroom, I'm in there playing the game. I brush my teeth, I play the game. I go to the bathroom, I play the game. I wash my hands, I'm playing the game. I'm playing the game 10 times before I go to school. When I get back from school, I'm playing it again. And I'm playing it until my parents get home and are aware of what I'm doing. So then I stop. But I'm playing it between 25 and 50 times a day. Every time I play it, I get the scary face. Now, I'm not smart enough at 10 years old to figure out this isn't a game, it's a spell. And it's not the spirit of a burn victim, it's a demon. But I don't know any of that. I'm just having a great time playing the game because every time, remember, I'm a little nerdy kid. I have limited friends. My friends are nerdy kids like me. But when I'm at home, I don't really have any friends. And I can play this game, and this guy always shows up. Yeah, he doesn't communicate with me, but he's always there.
Yeah.
And when you're a little nerdy kid and you can conjure up something like that every time, to me, it was the coolest thing in the world. Now, at the same time as that, the older kids played Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm also a little math geek. And it's a math-based game. So I'm playing that. And my parents don't care. I mean, I'm just playing with kids. There's no adults there.
Yeah.
And, so I'm not playing with adults, doing anything, and it's just kids that they know. It's, kids that I either go to school with or kids that I go to church with.
Yeah.
And all of us are playing D&D. And then eventually, after I've asked my Baptist preacher and my parents, is magic real? Can that really happen? And both were like, no, it's impossible to do magic. It's not real. It's just the stuff of comic books and movies and books, but it's not something you can really do. Now, somehow, miraculously, my Baptist preacher and my parents missed the 33 verses in the Bible that tell people not to do magical things. Now, in the 10 Commandments, it says, thou shalt not lie. If it was impossible to lie, thou shalt not lie wouldn't be in the Ten Commandments. Same thing with stealing or murder. If it was impossible to do those acts, God wouldn't tell you not to do them. Just like we don't have a speed limit sign that says don't go 700 miles an hour because nobody can. Obviously, you can go 55 or faster. So we have that speed limit sign, or 60 or 65. In Montana, they have speed limit is 80. And it's like no one goes that fast because your gas mileage is so bad at that point. But if you could go 700 miles an hour, there would be a speed limit sign saying not to exceed that. But we don't have that sign because no one can do it. God would not tell you not to do something if it was impossible to do it.
Yeah.
But God tells you not to do magical things 33 times. So for God to say it that many times when he tells you do not lie one time, and lying is a mortal sin, that sin will send you to hell. And all these warnings that he says not to do is usually you get one warning. Magic, you get 33 warnings. It's like this is a serious sin.
Yeah, he's trying to hammer it in your head.
In the Old Testament, you're stoned to death. In the New Testament, you don't inherit the kingdom of God.
Mm-hmm.
And then parents come up to me, is Harry Potter okay? Like, I don't know. Let's see. Harry Potter in the Old Testament would have been stoned to death. In the New Testament, he wouldn't inherit the kingdom of God. Which one do you think would be okay? And which one do you think God is okay with? He's not even okay with white magic or Wiccan magic. It's like all magic comes from the devil. It's all satanic.
All the same. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all the same. No matter what kind of magic you're doing. If you're doing Kabbalah, Jewish magic from the Old Testament, God told you not to. How many warnings do you need before you believe him not to do these things? And yet as people were stupid, we're like, well, yeah, I know he said not to do this kind of magic, but does that include this other kind of magic? Since he didn't mention this magic, this must be okay. And it's like, I don't know. He killed 450 prophets of Baal all at the same time because they were practicing magic. So I'm doing both these things, and it finally occurs to me, is magic something I can really do? I mean, my Baptist preacher says no. My parents say no. But I've caught my dad, not necessarily in lies, but I've caught him thinking he was right and he was wrong.
Mhm.
Maybe this is one of those things. Now, if I do it and it doesn't work, I'll probably never do it again. I probably will lose all interest in it. I'll put all magic in the category of what Doug Henning says, and that it's all illusion and sleight of hand. And I'm not interested in that. I just walked away from it and left it alone. But if it does work, I know something that no adult knows. And I have a power that no one else has. And knowledge is power. And I was like, I'm going to try it. So I looked up magic spells at the library. I didn't want to check anything out because I knew from checking out books in the past, the librarian calls my dad and tells him what I got. And then I get in trouble for it. So I can't check it out, but I can check, I can look at it there. I don't find anything on magic. So since I'm playing D&D all the time, and so many of our campaigns, when they start, you have to get money or jewels or gold, something so you can have a campaign. So, and finance your trip. So I do a magic spell from that. And then that's on a Friday. Saturday, I go out and I find a can of tennis balls with a $5 bill in it. I'm thinking, all right, this ain't bad. My major interests at this time are candy bars, which are 15 to 20 cents, comic books, which are 15 to 20 cents, and penny candy, which is a penny. So if my dad will pay the tax, I can get 500 pieces of candy. This is a score. This is a major score. But that could have been a coincidence. Somebody had to find that can of tennis balls. There was tons of people around there. I just happened to pick it up. It's like, oh, 3 tennis balls. Whatever. $5 bill. Score. So the next Friday, I did it again. Now, there's no tennis tournament in town now. So what's going to happen? And the next day I go out, I've got two people walking in front of me, walking away from me, and I've got two people walking behind me, coming towards me, and me. And I look down and I see a $10 bill in the grass. And I pick it up and I put that in my pocket. Okay, it's been 7 days and I just double my money. And if my dad pays the tax, I can buy 1,000 pieces of candy. This is pretty cool. I mean, this is 1976.
Yeah.
So everything I want's dirt cheap. Now,
Mhm.
also keep in mind that in 1976, a dollar would be worth about $7 now. So I found $10, that's $70. I
Mhm.
found $5, that's $35. I'm pretty happy with the amount of stuff that I can buy. The penny candy that I'm talking about, if you bought it now, it cost you between 25 and 50 cents each. Back then,
Okay.
I got it for a penny. To
Yeah.
put that in perspective, when my dad was a boy, he told me that penny candy was 10 pieces of candy for a penny.
Wow.
So 10 pieces of candy for a penny back in the 1930s, and now 100 years later, it's 50 cents for one of those pieces of candy.
Man.
And that would be like for the miniature mints, like the full size. You got the full size York peppermint patty, and then
Yeah.
there was the smaller ones. The
Small
smaller
ones, yeah.
ones used to be a penny, and now they're like 50 cents. So I'm feeling like I'm living high on the hog now, but still, this could have been a coincidence. I'm a tough sell, so I decide I'm going to do it again, but I'm gonna change it up a little bit. I'm gonna do it in the bathroom at home, and I'm gonna do my spell, and then I'm gonna do my Bloody Mary thing, and then when I get the demonic face, I'm gonna finish out my magic spell and make sure that that face knows that I'm doing a spell for money. I don't know exactly what that face is. Is it a demon? I don't know. I mean, we were taught in the Baptist church that Jesus defeated Satan on the cross 2,000 years ago, and Satan is no threat now, and that Satan is afraid of the Baptist church. Now, as a sidebar here, Satan was so bold in heaven, he attacked God on his own turf. And then St. Michael, the lowly archangel, who is just one step above a guardian angel, kicked a seraphim out of heaven. Another reason for Satan to be mad is because his pride was injured by being kicked out by this lowly archangel. And so he's not too happy about that. But if you're thinking that Satan got defeated 2,000 years ago and he's no threat now, and you're thinking that Satan is afraid of your church, one, you are emboldened beyond what's reasonable.
Yep.
And if you're listening to this interview and you're thinking those same thoughts, that means Satan can attack you every day, multiple times a day, and you just think you're having a bad day. Today sucks. You're not thinking it's the devil, so that gives him impunity to attack you as much as he wants to, and you don't think it's the devil. So
Yep.
you're not
Because that.
fighting against it. You're not trying to defend yourself.
Yep. Because that bad doctrine.
Right. So I do the spell in my house. I've done it in my bathroom. My spell is over. I conjured up the face. I made sure I'm holding up $1 bills. That's all I had. But I'm holding up $1 bills to show that I'm doing a spell for money. Next day, I went out to play. It's a Saturday. I'm playing in a large parking lot. It's unpaved. And it's one of my favorite places to play. And I'm playing there, and something shiny catches my attention. And I run off to see what that is. When I get there, there's nothing shiny on the ground, but there's what looks like Monopoly money rolled up tight in rubber bands. So I pick that up, put it in my pocket, go back to playing. At the end of the night, everybody's home, everybody's taking their bath, everybody has their pajamas on, everybody's going to bed. We've got church in the morning. And I'm in my room, my lights are out, I'm under a sheet, I've got a flashlight in my mouth, and I'm unraveling my rubber bands to see what I have. Now, it looked like Monopoly money because I'd never seen a $100 bill.
Yeah.
And when I unraveled everything, I had 10 $100 bills.
Ooh,
It is
buddy.
1976. I'm worth $1,000, which would be worth about $7,000 now.
Mhm.
And I realized that if my dad paid the tax, I could buy 100,000 pieces of candy. And I'm just shy of getting up and doing cartwheels around my room, and yelling woohoo at the top of my lungs. I don't want anyone to know.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to know that I'm worth $1,000. But I know that if I did this spell every day and had the same results, in
Buddy.
3 years, I'd be a millionaire.
Straight up. Yeah.
Or in 1 year, I could buy a Lamborghini. Now, my number one car back then was a Lamborghini Countach. I love looking at posters and magazines that had Countaches. I mean, not very practical for a child to look at, but nothing you can do with it. And imagine if I told my dad, hey, Dad, I need a ride from you to go 90 miles so that I can go to the Lamborghini store and buy my new Lamborghini. I'm looking at it from a 10-year-old's perspective. I'm not looking at it as though I got to tell my dad where I've got. How did I get $300,000? I also have to, my dad is going to have to drive me there, pick up my Lamborghini and drive
And
home.
drive back.
He's going to have to get insurance for that car. And then my dad drives like an old man. We're going to drive every place going 15, 20 miles an hour. Imagine driving a Lamborghini Countach 15 or 20 miles an hour. It would never come out of first gear. And my dad would just be driving it like an old man, smoking a cigar and having a smile on his face, and 15 miles an hour, and people are passing us and shooting us off, shooting birds at us, and cussing us out for going so slow. My dad wouldn't care. That's how he drives. And so I'm not considering any of that. I'm just thinking I'd be the coolest kid in the world.
Yeah.
I'm 10 years old, or by then I'd be 11 years old, and I would own a Lamborghini. Not thinking I can't drive it for another 5 years. I don't care. I just want it. And I never got that, by the way. But I'm I'm feeling like I'm on top of the world. Like magic works. It without 100% no doubt in my mind now. I've done 3 spells. All 3 spells worked. I'm having a great time. I'm on top of the world. When I'm 11 years old, I became the victim of a sexual assault at school at the hands of a female teacher. Now, she told me it was my idea. I wanted to do it. I enjoyed myself. And that if I tell anyone, I'll be expelled from school. I'll be arrested and taken to prison. My parents will disown me. And when I come out of prison, she made us all sound like it would happen in the same year. When I came out of prison, I won't be allowed to go to school and I won't be allowed to live at home. That I'll have to get a job and support myself and, get my own apartment, pay all my bills, buy my own groceries, do everything on my own. Remember, I'm 11 years old. You know, um, I'm seeing my whole life is just going away. And she says, all you have to do to avoid any of that is not tell anyone what happened. I mean, it was your idea after all. And in the reality, it wasn't my idea.
Yeah.
It just is something that happened to me. I was in the bathroom and there was a female teacher in there. And, she sexually assaulted me. I didn't know what was happening to me. My dad had never described sex to me. I didn't know anything of what she was doing. And none of my friends talked about sex. There was nothing like that. And I was in 6th grade. And, when the assault happened and I went back to my class, I was supposed to go to the bathroom and come right back. I was gone for about a half an hour. When I came
Yeah.
back, my teacher asked if I had fun in the bathroom. And I didn't know if she meant because it took me a half an hour, maybe she thought I was playing, or did she know about the sexual assault that just happened? And she was asking me if I enjoy it.
Yeah.
So when I went to the bathroom, I had to pee really bad. I got there, I still never got to pee. So now I'm in class. I've still got a half an hour to go before the end of school, and I still have to pee. When the bell rings and I can go, I'm scared now to go to any of the bathrooms because what if that woman is still waiting? What if she's in that bathroom now instead of mine? And so I don't go to the bathroom. I walk home, pee my pants on the way home, put that in the dirty clothes hamper. Luckily, my mother never asked me, why I peed my pants. But, I guess you figure, well, boys, just whatever, you didn't make it to the bathroom. So, but as a result, I'm taking a bath that night in the hottest water I can stand. Like, it's burning me, but I'm trying to get clean. And I did that multiple days and never felt clean. I read the back of a bleach bottle to find out, would this really hurt me if I drank some? I'm just trying to clean myself from like the inside out. And I read maybe fatal if swallowed. And I thought, I can't. They think I committed suicide. And I'm not trying to kill myself. I'm just trying to cleanse myself. And nothing was working. I mean, I was going to church every Sunday, but I didn't feel any connection to God. And, I'm just trying to, I used to have a friend that towards the end of the day, he would say, I'm just trying to maintain. I was just trying to maintain, and I wasn't maintaining very well. However, when I practiced magic, no matter what I asked for, I didn't ask for outrageous things, but everything I asked for, I was given. And when I practiced magic, I was at the top of my game. I couldn't be beat. I was happy. It made me forget about the day that I didn't have any control and I couldn't control what was happening to me and I couldn't stop it. And I couldn't make that woman not do it.
Yeah.
But now my magic takes me to a whole new realm and I can do whatever I want to do. And if that woman would attack me while I'm doing magic, I would defeat her. And I'm trying to avoid. I stopped going to the bathroom when I was at school just because I didn't want it to happen again. It was like school then became like a traumatic place for me to be. And if I saw her in the hallway and she smiles at me like, like now, she loves me or something, and I would like avoid her. I'd go way around her. I'd mix up with a bunch of other kids so we could all walk past. I wouldn't walk past her room alone. I don't know what she's capable of. I don't know what she's willing to do again. And I don't want any part of her. And, when I was 12 years old, there had been a kid when I was 10 years old that used to play D&D with us. He also went to school with us and he went to church with us. And he stopped all that. We thought that he moved away from town. When I was 12 years old, he comes back. He's playing D&D with me. He goes to church with me. He goes to school with me. And we ask him, hey, where'd you move to? Why'd you come back? Like most people say, when they move away from this town, they never want to come back.
Yeah.
And he goes, I didn't move. I was homeschooled. I went to church at home. And I just learned about a bunch of stuff. Now, what he learned was how to be a satanic recruiter. He's 12 years old. And he comes and he tells us, hey, I play D&D with this other group, and there's adults and kids, and they believe magic works. Well, I know magic works. So I think I'm gonna go check these guys out and see what they think. See what they're into. So going over there during the summer, my mother would give us 3 meals a day and a snack if she was in a good mood. And that snack was going to be something healthy. It was going to be, he's going to eat carrot sticks or grapes or cherries or an apple, bananas, something like that. But over there, and at my house, in the course of 18 years, I had 5 pizzas, maybe. And those 5 pizzas all came from the grocery store. So we never went to Pizza Hut or Domino's or a private pizza joint, nothing like that. But over there, have you ever had Pizza Hut? No. Well, let's do that. You ever had Domino's? No. Let's do that. Hey, have you had McDonald's? Yeah, we get McDonald's once in a while. Well, why don't you tell me what you want and I'll go get it right now. Or Burger King. Or we had a place called Biff Burger. It's like, let's go to Biff Burger. I said, my dad doesn't go to Biff Burger. He said it's nasty. And he goes, well, let's find out if it is. Biff Burger was really good. I imagine my dad didn't like it because it was super greasy. It was
Yeah.
clearly bad. It was clearly bad for you, but it tasted amazing. And so anything that I want, I mean, there's a pantry that when you open, they told me to look at that pantry and see what you think. So I opened it up. There's like 20 boxes of candy in there. And he's like, take what you want. So I'm taking like 5 bars. And they're like, no, you don't have to do that. Just take one. And then when you want another one, go back. You don't have to ask anybody. You just go over there, open it up, take the candy bar you want, close the door, eat that candy bar. You're hungry for another one, go back and get another one. Nobody's going to judge you. Nobody's going to say anything. It's for us. It's for all the kids that are here. You know, at my dad's house, we could watch a G-rated movie. So we watched a lot of Disney, or a PG-rated movie if it had been vetted by my dad first. But over there, they had R-rated movies.
Yeah.
I'd never seen an R-rated. I didn't even know that existed. So I'm watching a lot of really scary movies or really violent movies. And then they also had X-rated movies. And then they had triple X-rated movies. And they had triple X-rated movies with kids in it my age. So they're showing me first magazines and still photos of naked children, and then they show me a video. Now, the cool thing about the video, it's a reel to reel, and it's being like it's projection. So I mean, they're projecting it on a big screen, and I'm watching these children get undressed and have sex with each other. But the same children on the screen are sitting with me on the couch. Imagine you go to a movie and you're going to watch, say, Sylvester Stallone movie, and Sylvester Stallone is sitting right next to you,
Right.
and he's asking you, "What do you think of that scene? What do you think of that? That was fun to do. That was dangerous. I had a great time during this movie." And he's the movie star of the movie you're watching, and he's telling you the inside nuances of the movie. And to you, that's the coolest thing in the world. Like no
Yeah.
one else is friends with Sylvester Stallone. It's just you and Sylvester watching this movie. I'm sitting there watching the movie, the stars of this movie that are sitting all around me, telling me I didn't like that scene. I did like that one. That hurt. That was uncomfortable. I love that. That was fantastic. She's a great actress, and I like working with her.
Yeah.
And I'm eating this up. You know, these are the movie stars of this film I'm watching. And they told me that what happened to me when I was 11 years old was horrible. That should have
Yeah.
never happened to anybody. But now's the chance I can get my power back.
Yeah.
We don't have any power. But, you know, Satan's, selling me a lie and I'm buying it. That now, if anybody that I want to do those things with, I can do it. I
Yeah.
can just grab a girl by the hand, take her into the bedroom, and we're going to do that stuff. If somebody grabs me by the hand and I don't want to go, I don't have to go.
Yeah.
No obligation on my part to do anything I don't want to do. They also said that if I wanted to, I could learn how to do the stuff of these movies and then I'd be famous. And I was like, how famous am I going to be? And so they brought me over stuff from the mailbag. And it was fan mail from people that were watching these kids do this stuff. And then they'd write in and say how much they loved. Everybody that's in these movies has a fake name. So
Yeah.
like my fake name for the movies was Tommy. So it would be a video or a letter from Japan stating who they enjoyed watching and who they'd like to see and what they'd like to see them do. Now, a lot of the letters that we got, and we're getting them from all over the world, every country sends us fan mail. Um, if it's, but the letters we got would be on like, when we were kids, the notebook paper was short and wide,
Yeah.
and the lines were really thick. So it would come like that and written in crayon. So you'd think it's a child doing it, and they would misspell words, and we just thought it was a child that wrote it. It wasn't until I was an adult that I realized this was a pedophile that wrote to us.
Yeah.
This is an adult. It couldn't have been a child because our videos were too expensive. We made still photos, and still photos you had to buy like a group of 50 of them to get them, and they were
Yeah.
very expensive. So we'd sell like a group of 50 or a group of 100, or we made vids, which are about 30 minutes long. We made loops, which are 7 minutes long.
Yeah.
Made movies, which are an hour and a half to 2 hours long. And then they also sold compilation tapes, which would be all the oral scenes from 9 different movies, all
Yeah.
jammed into one. And then that's about 4 hours long.
Yeah.
And people are paying big, I mean, fat money to buy these things. And then we get letters from all around the world stating, like, we loved watching the Dark Kid Tommy, and I'm looking at this letter, like, letters come from France, Germany, England, um, Japan,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking I'm a movie star because they're saying that they love me working with this particular girl and they wanted to see me working with this other girl, and this is the scenes we'd like to see. Now, before that happened, for me to learn how to have sex, because the only thing that I'd done is got sexually assaulted, and that didn't teach me anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it taught me fear and self-loathing, and you're left with like shame and despair. And I they gave me a letter, and they said, take this to this address. Well, that address was just a couple of blocks behind my house.
Yeah.
And I knew the girls that lived there and the boy and the mother. I mean, I've seen them in passing. I don't hang out with them. But so I went there, rang their doorbell, knocked on the door. One of the older girl opens the door and I hand her this letter. She opens it up, reads the letter, and passes it to all of her siblings. And then they invite me in. And they told me, first, you're going to have sex. You're going to learn how to have sex with our youngest sister. She's 8 years old. Then, when you progress from her, you'll go with the middle daughter. She's 11. And when you graduate from her, you go to the oldest girl. She's 14.
Mm.
Once you've learned how to do everything with them, then you'll be good for these movies.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. So the first girl takes about 3 weeks. The second girl takes about 2. The last one takes less than a week. And I've graduated. But the mom, what I learned was all of these girls got started in child pornography when they were all 3.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And they learned like their entire when the 14-year-old was, I think, 15, she ran away from home.
Mhm.
And she moved to a different town, got married to a boy, and I don't know whatever happened to her. She never came back though.
Yeah.
And the mom of all these, okay, so I'm learning with the second girl. I'm in her bed, we're both naked, and the back door of the house opens up. That's how the mom gets home. When
Yeah.
she gets home, she doesn't walk in the front door, she walks in the back door. So that's where she parks the car. And I hear that door open up, and I'm thinking, I'm going to die. Today's
Yeah.
going to be the last day of my life. The mom's going to catch me, and she's either going to kill me herself, or she's going to go 2 blocks ahead and talk to my dad, and my dad will come back and kill me.
Yeah.
This is going to be it for me. And her mom knocks on the door, and I'm about to tell her, go away. And the daughter says, come on in, mom. Mom comes in. I'm laying there completely naked next to her naked 11-year-old daughter. And, I'm 12, she's 11. And I'm thinking I am so dead. And the mom talks and asks, how's he learning? Is he doing well? And I'm like shocked that the mom knows.
Wow.
And,
Yeah.
she's like, yeah, he's learned a lot with, the younger sister. And I think he's almost done with me. And then, he'll get the older sister and then he'll be done. But I'm thinking he's doing pretty good. And then she looks at me and she says, you want to stay for supper tonight? And I'm like, you're going to have to call my dad and ask him. And she goes, okay, I'll go do that. So I'm still thinking, she's going to get on the phone and say, by the way, your son is having
Yeah.
sex with my daughter, and I'm going to poison the food, and all my children are going to be dead after tonight. And, instead she asked my dad, can he stay for supper? My dad's like, sure, just make sure he comes home after you're done. And she's like, well, by the time we're done, we're probably going to watch some TV and stuff. And can we send him home at like 9? And she goes, I can give him a ride. He goes, nah, it's only a couple of blocks. You can walk home, it's fine. So, she comes back, and I can hear that conversation. And she comes back and says, he said it's okay. You don't have to leave till 9 o'clock. And so at another time, she told me that she got involved in child pornography when she was 3.
Yeah.
And then she had multiple abortions. And then eventually she decided she'd like to have her children. And she talked them into letting her have the children because if she had them, they would be more people to be in the movies. So everybody said yes, she could give birth. And she gave birth to 4 children. She had 3 daughters and a son.
Yeah.
And so I graduate from doing all that. And then I went into movies myself. And to me, it wasn't a job. It was just fun. It was
Yeah.
something to do. And I'm thinking I'm the luckiest kid in the world. I mean, every Monday when kids would come back from the weekend, they would talk about all the sex they had on the weekend. But they were all lying.
Yeah.
They just made up stories to tell other boys so that other boys might believe their lies and think this is the luckiest kid in the world because he's having sex with his babysitter. I never bragged about anything I did because I didn't want anyone to believe me. I
Yeah.
didn't want someone to tell my dad, did you know he's having sex with this girl and this girl and this girl? And my dad would have sat me down and told me, you can't, say things like this because people will believe you. And then the police will end up at the house and then he'd punish me by some method that I'm sure I wouldn't like. And so I'm
Oh shoot. Pause. Go ahead.
And I told him that, if he did whatever it is they say to do, I'll see him on MTV in 6 months. But it turned out that I saw him on MTV and VH1 about 3 months later. And, he can't sing or dance, but he's singing and dancing with a boy band, and he's doing it just as good as they are. And he claimed that these were not things he could do. So, but what happens when you agree, when you call that number and they ask you, hey, what are you willing to do to be famous? And he's like, well, I've already said I would do these things. And they're like, okay, so this is the address you have to go to. It's a hotel in Los Angeles, and it looks like a regular hotel, except there's almost never anybody that really stays there. So when you go inside, you go up to the front desk, they get your name, and they take your driver's license, and then they tell you you can have it back when you leave. They eventually give you a key, and they tell you where the elevators are. You get in the elevator, you go up to whatever floor, and you get off. You try your key, and sure enough, it opens the door. When you walk inside, what you see is a large white diamond-shaped table.
Mm.
On that table is a fake plant in about the middle of it, and then towards you is a glass bowl, and there's also a set of instructions that start at the top of the table and comes all the way to the bottom of it. In those set of instructions, it tells you that there's a camera above the door facing down, and you have 2 options that you can pull from that big bowl. You pull out one option, open it up, and read what it is you have to do. And if you decide you don't want to do that option, put the letter back in there. Now, either way, you have to hold it up to the camera. So you have to show the camera what you're going to do or not do. So then you fold that up, put it in your back pocket, and pull out the other one and read that. Show it to the camera behind you. And then you have to decide which one of these you're going to do. And then whichever one you decide to do, you have to go into the room of the corresponding, like if the letter says room A, then you have to look for room A in this suite that you're in. Or if it says room B, you've got to go to the door with the B on it, and you've got to do whichever one you're going to do. Whenever you go into that room, you have 3 hours to do whatever it is you're going to do, and what you're doing is being filmed and still photoed. Now, let's say, though, that you see two options and you don't want to do either one. You have that option as well. You can fold them both up, put them back in the envelopes, put them both in your back pocket, go back down in the elevator, go to the front desk, turn in the two things and say, I don't want to do either one. And they give you back your driver's license. But also, you know this because they're going to tell you, and you also read it in these instructions, that if you decide not to do either one, you're not allowed to try this again for 3 years. And what happens in that 3 years is that you see everybody that got famous that could have been you.
Yeah.
Their songs aren't as good as yours. Your songs would have been number one a lot longer than theirs, but they're getting one number one song after another. They're winning awards at the Grammys or at the MTV Music Awards. Whatever the award show is, they're winning. They are now living in the mansion that would have been yours. They're driving the cars that would have been yours. They're winning awards that would have been yours. They're now multimillionaires, or they might even be a billionaire. And that could have been you. But you decided not to do whatever that gross thing was. And you thought, I'm not doing that. Somebody else can do it.
Yeah.
But after 3 years of you seeing everybody that's a multimillionaire or billionaire, and you're seeing the people that are now driving Lamborghinis or Mercedes or whatever the car of choice is that you wanted, and they're all driving them, and they go to movie premieres, and they go to other rock star events, and everybody knows they're like a rock god. That could have been you, but you chose not to do that thing. You need to suck it up and just go do it. Now, that goes one of two ways. Either the person will be so regretful at the end of 3 years, they will go back and they'll do it again. And this time they'll do it. Or they'll decide this world isn't what I thought it was. There's no way I'm going to do this. There's no way that I am not this gross of a person.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you the 4 things that you have the option to do.
Okay.
And as far as I know, these 4 things are still what the 4 things are. You know, I set people up for this from 1987 to 1999. I've got no reason to think that they've changed. And if you look at people in the news, you might be able to guess which one some of them chose.
Okay.
And I'm going to put them in the order of the least gross to the most gross. So to me, the reason this first one is the least gross isn't that it's in the grouping of all 4. This is clearly the least gross. It's just that I know as a child, I had to take medicine when I had the flu that was the grossest medicine in the world. If you took the green one didn't taste bad. But if you took the red one or the orange one, which were pretty colors, you'd regret that you were alive that day because you had to taste that.
Mm-hmm.
It was nastiest medicine. My dad used to talk about when he was a kid, he would either take Grove's Chill Tonic. There's a picture of a smiling baby. It's smiling because it knows it doesn't have to take the medicine. Or 666. I'm like, why would you take a medicine called 666? Or castor oil. And he's like, all 3 of these were nasty. You've never had to take anything as nasty as that. And I said, I'll believe you when you take this red medicine and say it's fine. And he took it and almost threw it up. And I was like, aha, I told you. But I knew the secret. If your mom puts it in a spoon and you tilt your head back and hold your nose and she gives it to you, you can just swallow it instantly and then just take like a drink of soda or a drink of water as a chaser, and you don't taste it. So I thought, if I tilt my head back and held my nose, I might could drink this. It's 14 to 16 ounces. It comes in a tall cup and it's vomit.
Mm.
And I know that when I slam it, it's going to come back up. So I'm going to have to taste it twice. But when it comes back up, you don't have to gather that in a cup and swallow it again. Once you've done it, it's done. And then you can be a rock star. But I'm thinking if I was faced with that, you're going to go into that room, you've got 3 hours to do it. In 3 hours, I'm probably going to talk myself out of it. So I have to go in there and just do it all at once. And from there, the options get worse.
Yeah.
Your next option is to eat a large bowl. I don't know what size large is, but a large bowl of animal feces.
Mm.
Any size bowl is too much of that. They say a large bowl, a 1 ounce ramekin would be too big, but heaven forbid it's 16 ounces or 18 ounces. I cannot look at a bowl of poop and think, that's great. I want to do that. So of these two options, if I had it, I'm thinking it'd be the vomit. The next one is you're put in a room full of dogs and cats and told to have sex with as many of them as you can.
Yeah.
Now that to me seems dangerous. I don't know what size the dogs are or what size the cats are, but the cats are going to shred your body. You're not going to be happy when you leave. And the last one is that you're going to have sex with children that are 12 and younger. Now, all these kids are being trafficked. It's not like you're going to go in there and they're virgins and they don't know what's going on. But they're still victims, and it's still horrible that you would do this. Which one of the people in the news do you think chose that last option?
Did he?
That would be my guess.
Yeah.
Since he still does it and seems to enjoy it, I'm thinking that when he had the choice of being a rock star, he thought, that's supposed to be negative? Sign me up for that one.
Yeah.
And I'll just keep doing that as long as, I'm a rock star. So, that was like, to me, I'd rather drink the vomit. But you don't get a choice of all four. You get a choice of two. So, if I've got the children or the vomit, I'm taking the vomit.
Yeah.
So, and to me, that's really the only one I'd be willing to do. There's nothing else in there. But the thing to consider, though, is that think about all the rock stars you know.
Yeah.
When I was a high wizard, they knew 90 days in advance where I was going to be. And they also knew which rock acts were going to be in those same areas I was going to be. So if I was going to be somewhere where any rock band was going to be, and they were on our list of free concerts, and I can go for free because somebody signed them to one of these deals. So they've agreed to sell their soul to the Illuminati and do whatever it is they were told to do. So if they were on that list, I could check them off and say, yes, I want to go see them. I want to go see them. I want to go see them. And I could see as many as I wanted. Not only do I get to go see them, but I'm backstage. So I'm enjoying their food, their booze, their drugs, their women, whatever it is that I want. I'm like a special VIP guest back there.
Yeah.
And I can talk to them. I can sit with them, if I want to, and I can have lunch or supper or even go on their tour bus, go back to the hotel, or stay on the tour bus for a couple of days and just party with them, and so that's a great time for me. I had four bands that if I wanted to go see them, I had to pay because they did not sell their soul. And this is odd when you hear the four bands, not all of them, but sometimes people are shocked on two of them. I had to pay to see Bruce Springsteen and the band U2 and the band Pink Floyd
Wow. Okay.
and the band Metallica.
Wow. Okay.
I saw Metallica like 4 or 5 times. I had to pay every time. Uh, I went and saw Pink Floyd twice, and I had to pay both times.
Yeah.
And they were not on my free list. But and then people have told me, so you're sure they haven't sold their soul? I said, well, they didn't do it as of 1999. By the time 1999 hit, everybody knew the four names. Those four names were all rock stars. They were all millionaires. They've all owned everything that they wanted to own by this time. Why would you wait till 1999 to sell your soul if you've already got
What you
$100
want.
million?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've already got the 100 million. You've already got the mansion. You've already got a beautiful wife. You've got everything you want. You've gotten however many awards. You've got millions of fans around the world. Why do it now?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Don't.
So I'm doing all this, and I'm having a great time. I mean, I'm partying with rock stars, and rock stars now. Actors are broken. They're like, take people that want to be in the public eye 24 hours a day. If somebody wants to camp out on their front porch just to catch a picture of them eating a bowl of cereal, these are the people that want it to happen. And it's like, why are you so damaged? What happened to you as a child that makes you want to be the center of attention 24 hours a day? And then you hear about people that have meltdowns because people are doing this to them. Usually, when you hear about that, it's a rock star that does it.
Yeah.
Because they only want to be the center of attention when they're on stage, not 24 hours a day, no matter where they are. Actors want that.
Yeah.
So like, Britney Spears had a meltdown. She's a rock star.
Yeah.
And when I say rock star, I mean pop music, rock and roll, heavy metal, opera, country music, everything. If you're famous in that, you're a rock star.
Yeah.
So like, I'm like a minor celebrity, within the Catholic community. So, since I speak a lot, that makes me a rock star. Not really.
Yeah.
So, I say that I'm not a rock star. I carry the rock star's bags. So whenever Jesus goes somewhere, I'm carrying his bags. I'm helping him, do whatever he's going to do. So, but I'm not the rock star. So I am partying with rock stars, hanging out with actors. How I know about the Fortes is from hanging out with rock stars and them
Yeah.
telling me the two choices they had. And it's like, how do you decide which one you're going to do? And he's like, well, I wanted to do this. And those were the only two choices I had. And if I don't do either one, I got to wait 3 years. And I don't want to wait 3 years. What if I don't have the opportunity to do it again? What if I had the chance and I blew it? And he goes, I had to take one of the two.
Yeah.
So I went with what I thought was the least gross. I said, and what about after you do it? He goes, then you catch the elevator ride down, rethinking your life, thinking, was this really what I wanted to do?
Yeah.
Is this really the right option? I mean, I've already done it, and it's the grossest thing I've ever done. Did I make the right choice? He goes, but 7 days later, when you get that call that you have a contract waiting for you and to show up with an attorney and be ready to fight for what you want, and that, if you sign the right deal, you can have it all, and you do it, he goes, then that starts to put your mind at ease that you did the right thing. He goes, but it's still, sometimes you hear about somebody that has a big mansion, drives a bunch of cars, has a bunch of girlfriends, and they're an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Or they're a drug addict. Or you hear about them wrapping their car around a tree. Or you find them hanging from a noose in the kitchen. And you're thinking, they're worth $500 million. They had a huge mansion. They've got all the cars, all the women, everything they want. Why would they do this? And this one guy told me, because it takes a lot of alcohol and a lot of drugs to forget what you had to do to get to where you are.
Yeah.
And sometimes you OD, or you die of alcoholic poisoning, or you've got counseling and the counselor can't help you. He's telling you the best advice he has, but he's not telling you the right thing.
Mm.
And so I'm traveling the world. I'm doing spells for kings and queens and monarchs and presidents and all these people. I went to Bohemian Grove, found out it's a real place. Um, First time I was there was '87. I saw and met Ronald Reagan, and he was the most uncomfortable man in the world there. He did not want to be there. When I went up to shake his hand, I voted for Reagan. I
Yeah.
stuck my hand out to shake his hand. He stuck his hand out and then happened to look up and see me and pulled his hand back and started backing away from me. And I thought, that's fair. That's fair. That's fine. And then while I was there, I met Bill Clinton. I was in '92. I met Barack Obama in '94. I didn't actually meet him. I saw him walk by. And this guy I was with said, he's going to be president one day. And I thought, nobody voted for Jesse Jackson. Why would they vote for him?
Yeah.
He won 2 terms in a row. And, I met both Bushes. I met a lot of people that I imagine they were probably famous in some way, but I wasn't totally into the politics or anything. So I didn't recognize them, didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
So I do all this stuff, and I'm having a great time as a high wizard. I'm flying everywhere. I'm flying first class most places. A lot of places I have a VIP card. If I want to fly, I go up and I present my ID and the VIP card, and it puts me in first class. And like my wife the other day, she asked me, what's the big deal about first class? And I said, well, if you've got plenty of money, it gives you more leg room in front, more room for your butt to sit, and free booze. You get an upgrade on food. I said, it's just, but you have to pay for that. And
Yeah.
she's like, what's the difference? And I said, well, let's look it up right now. So I looked up because I went to France in 2014 and I was speaking at the Basilica of St. Mary Magdalene. And I looked up a trip. Back then when I went, it was $1,100 for me to go and $1,100 for my ex-wife. So now I looked it up. And if I went regular, it would be $2,000.
Mm.
And first class is $17,000 to $24,000. And yeah, my wife almost passed out. She was like, "What? It's insane." I said, "Yes, it is insane." I said, "There's no real reason. I mean, when that plane crashes, the economy plus and the first class are still going to die. You're both going down in the same plane. It doesn't help you being in first class. You don't suddenly get to live or have parachutes because you're in first class. Everybody goes the same way. So, it's like in the Bible where the rain falls on the good man and the bad. So same thing with the plane. When the plane goes down, both of you die. So I'm getting, again, it's like I'm getting everything I want. I'm sleeping with a lot of women. My coven buys my prostitutes. So I'm sleeping with prostitutes. I'm taking as many drugs as I want. I'm drinking. But eventually, I realize that if I keep drinking, I'm going to drink myself into oblivion because no amount of booze makes me drunk at this point. I can snort some cocaine, and the first bit I snort kind of feels good, but it it doesn't really. I mean, for me to really feel great, I'm gonna have to snort a lot more, and it's not worth it. I'm smoking weed, but weed isn't really making me high anymore. And no matter what I do, it gets depressing that I can't do enough of what I want to do and feel the way I want to feel. I also am tired, not necessarily of sinning, but of seeing what I'm doing. Nothing is fulfilling me. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how big my TV is, how many movies I own, how much music I have. It doesn't seem to be enough. Let's join Columbia House and get another 24 free. And that's still not enough. I need a surround sound system in my house. And when I get that, that's still not loud enough. I want it to be so loud that my neighbors complain, but I'm not having that. And, I'm just, I'm tired of what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
By now, I've committed 146 assisted abortions. I have done pretty much every sin under the sun. I'm taking all the drugs. I'm taking, drinking all the booze, and I'm tired of doing all that. But the really funny thing is, at some point, I tell people that working as a high wizard is like working in a candy store. Now, not one that's in the mall, but an actual freestanding building. When you look in there, there's like 100,000 different types of candy. And as the manager of the candy store, you're wondering, how long is it going to take me to try every piece of candy? Now, not the licorice, because nobody wants that. And think about 100,000 pieces of candy as 100,000 sins that you can do. So you're not going to do certain sins because they're disgusting. You're not going to do those sins, but everything else. How long will that take? Well, you notice after 6 months, you've had every piece of candy that you wanted to try. And in another 6 months, you've had the candy you said you'd never try.
Yep.
And then you keep trying stuff. And, after 3 years, you notice that how come your God can't make a new candy bar?
Yeah.
How come there's no new sins? And then crack cocaine comes out. And you're very excited. And you run over and you rip that candy bar off the wall and you open it up. And it's the same old candy, just a new wrapper. Crack cocaine's zoomed out, and you're going to be the first on your block to try it. And you do. And after you're high as a kite and enjoying the effects, you realize that the name of it is crack cocaine. It's not new.
Yeah.
It's still cocaine. This isn't the new candy bar. And after 7 years, this job sucks. I don't want to do this job anymore. But the only way to leave is that you have to die. You can commit suicide, you can die of natural causes, or you can be murdered. But all three of those, you end up in hell. And when I first sold my soul when I was 13, I didn't really believe in hell. I didn't believe Satan was real. I didn't really have a whole lot of faith in God. But now that I've been the High Wizard for a while, 7 years, God is real. Satan is legit. The demons and the angels are real.
Mm-hmm.
And I know if I die, I'm going to hell. And I know hell exists. I don't want to go. I had this job for 12 years. I'm almost ready to commit suicide. There's not enough stuff to make me happy. And it doesn't matter how many hookers I sleep with, how much booze I drink, how much cocaine I snort, how big my mansion is, how big anything is. Now, keep in mind, too, that Satan is all about using your illusion.
Yeah.
So when people see me in California, I'm living in a mansion in Calabasas, and when I leave my driveway, I'm driving a Lamborghini Diablo. My Lamborghini Diablo doesn't belong to me. My mansion doesn't belong to me. My tuxedo doesn't belong to me. What belongs to me? I have a bunch of rock and roll t-shirts, a lot of cut-off jeans, flip-flops or tennis shoes, and I live in Tallahassee, Florida, in Frenchtown. Frenchtown starts 1 block behind the governor's mansion, and it's the ghetto. It is the extreme ghetto. If you want to get shot, walk through Frenchtown. Now, I don't know if it's still the same. It may not be that way anymore. They might have cleaned it up. But when I lived there, it was bad. And, my people would agree to pick me up somewhere. And my backyard was a cemetery. You go through a little hole in the fence, walk across the cemetery, and then there's a convenience store there. And people would see me coming in my costume and they'd move. Everybody would move way out of the way. And no one wants to get in contact with the High Wizard, which I was fine with. That meant I wasn't going to be shot. And, then they would pick me up and I'd go around and do whatever I was going to do. And After a while, I didn't care if I got shot. So what? Let it happen. I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
And I start plotting an escape. And I make an appointment with a satanic doctor. And I start driving that way in my own car. But instead of getting off in the final exit, I keep going. And I drive till my car runs out of gas. And I spent the night in my car. Then I hitchhiked to the next town, sold my car for scrap, got a Greyhound bus ticket. I was going to go into Canada. Now, I know you're thinking Canada's just as bad as us, but I only went to Canada like maybe twice to do magic spells. So to me, there wasn't much of a satanic community in Canada. The last president they had seemed like Satan was running Canada. But I tried to escape into Canada, and I got rejected at the border. And they told me I could go anywhere I wanted to go, any place that Greyhound goes. So I opened up United States Atlas, closed my eyes, and put my finger down, and it landed on Oklahoma. So I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Tulsa, Oklahoma is like the belt buckle of the Bible Belt. So if you're going to practice magic there, you better do it not just in your own home, but in your bedroom with the door locked and the curtains, closed and all of that. So I did that, and I lived off the grid for a year. Then I lived back on the grid for 2 years. I bought a car, and I tried to go back into Canada again. And again, I got stopped at the border and rejected. So I went back, and a friend called me just out of the blue. I hadn't talked to him in years. And he's like, "What are you doing today?" And I said, "I'm trying to get into Canada." He goes, "Oh," he goes, "there's a border crossing near Burlington, Vermont. And if you cross there, there's no border guard. You just drive straight across. It's no big deal." I was like, "All right." So I'm heading that way. And I'm about 2 hours away. And I'm so tired, I can't keep my eyes open. So I pull over at a rest stop and I take a nap. Except instead of taking a nap, I woke up, it was the next day. And I thought, wow, I didn't know I was that tired. So I go inside the rest stop, freshen up a little bit, and then I start driving. It's only 2 hours away. So in 2 hours, I cross over the border. And this border guard pulls me over, searches my car inside and out, top to bottom. And this whole time, he's telling me his life story. And he's been trying to get this job for 3 years. And today is his very first day on the job.
Mm.
And I thought, God's got a sense of humor. I could have driven across the border yesterday and been safe. But now I'm rejected. So I'm worth $18 and have half a tank of gas. So I drove back to Burlington, Vermont. My first day in town, all the homeless people told me there's a place called the Way Station, and it's where they spend the entire day. And well, no, there's the day station. The day station you spend all day. The way station is where you go to spend the night. And they told me it was impossible to get a job there. So I went and I met somebody at a bar, talked about being a bouncer, and he sent me to another bar. And I went there hoping to get a bouncer's job, but they already had enough of those. And they said, "Well," I said, "Well, I'll do anything." And he goes, "That's the answer we like to hear. What do you know how to do?" He goes, "Can you do dishes?" I said, "I can clean them at home." He's like, "Same concept, just more." I was like, "Okay." He goes, "Well, you can be the dishwasher." So they hired me to be the dishwasher. And then in a couple of months, I joked around with everybody, I always had a smile on my face. And so they made me a doorman. And a doorman there is like a bouncer. And then they made me head of security. And so I was doing that. I was loving my life. And then I left that job and went to work for another restaurant. There were a restaurant during the day and a nightclub at night. So I started off being head of security, and then I moved up to being the nighttime GM. And I did that for a while, and that bar closed. And then I went to the mall, and my first job was a manager in training at Finish Line. So you're above the assistant manager and below the GM. And then from that, I went to Sunglass Hut, and I was the GM there. And then I left that and I was the GM at Pearson Pagoda. I'm still doing magic every day. I am addicted to magic. I don't join another coven because so many covens are connected around the world. Some of them don't even know they're connected. So, I'm doing that. And this woman, one day, I do a magic spell. The next day, I go into work, and this woman wants to buy a pair of gold tooth earrings. I was like, okay. So I present her with what I think is the perfect pair. And she says, actually, I'm shopping with my daughter. And when I'm done, I'll come back and I'll buy them. I've been a manager for a while now, and I understand women speak. I know that when a woman says that, what she means is, I'm going to go find it cheaper someplace else. But she had an honest face. I knew she was going to come back. And sure enough, 3 hours later, she comes back. We do the transaction. I've got her money. She's got the gold. And she made my day financially. And I'm giving her the receipt. And I say, if you call the 800 number on this receipt and take a survey, you might win $1,000. And she goes, that's great. I've got something for you too. And she reaches in her purse. And I'm thinking, oh no, she's going to pull out a Jack Chick pamphlet, tell me that I'm sinning, and drop to my knees and beg for forgiveness. All this stuff I can't do because I sold my soul to the devil when I was 13.
Yeah.
And instead, she pulls out this cheap gold-colored piece of tin. Like, if you could make this with a Coke can, you could probably, it was so thin and so cheap, you could probably make 1,000 of them with a Coke can. And, if you held it up to the light, you could see the light through it. It was that thin. And she said the weirdest thing I'd ever heard. Now, remember that I partied with rock stars. You give somebody that can write a song or a poem unlimited booze and drugs, and they will say some strange stuff. I mean, like Katy Perry, I kissed a girl and I liked it. The heck kind of song is that? Or Kid Rock, Bow to Ba. I mean, this was his breakout song. This was the song that made him a rock god, small g god. And the chorus of that song is bow to ba, to dang, diggy diggy, up jumps the boogie. And it's like, that's the best you got? You waited 24 years to reveal that? But we can't even judge that song and laugh at it because it was the number one song of the year and the number one video of the year. And that song, no matter how bad it was, beat out everything else that was out. Nothing else did that well. It shows this skinny white boy dressed like a pimp jumping around the stage. And he's got a large black woman with blonde hair beating the drums. And yes, she does look cool. And really, he looks cool. But the song is just like, really, this is it? Like, he starts off the song saying, my name is Kid Rock, but he screams Kid Rock and holds a note for a long time. And then is jumping around the stage like an idiot. And it's like, okay. So this woman said something to me more bizarre than that. She said, the Blessed Mother is calling you into her army. And I thought, Blessed Mother, Isis, Gaia? I have no idea who the Blessed Mother is. I grew up Baptist. Mary gave birth to Jesus. Now, I didn't hear about Jesus' first miracle of turning water to wine until I was Catholic. Because as a Baptist, we don't believe in drinking. So Jesus' first miracle of turning water to wine was never covered by the Baptist Church. So I didn't know about that. I also didn't know that Jesus and Mary and Joseph fled to Egypt, because the only thing Mary did in the Bible in the Baptist Church is that she gave birth to Jesus. What else did she do? Nothing, because all she did was give birth to Jesus. So I don't know who the Blessed Mother is. And then she says very powerful. Well, Protestants don't bless anything. So this woman represents some female deity cult, and I'm not interested because so many cults are connected. I don't want to join her deity cult and then find out it's connected to the World Church of Satan. So I'm not going to join. But, I'm willing to, if she hands me the pamphlet, I'll read it because they're like a little miniature comic book. They're very offensive, but I'll read it, sure.
Yeah.
It's like a mini comic book. Then I'll throw it in the trash. But instead, she pulls out this cheap gold-colored piece of tin. I mean, that's different. And, she's told me it's powerful and all of that. And I'm thinking, I just go to my happy place. How do they all find me? There's a sign above my head that only crazy people can see. And it says, crazy people come here, and has an arrow pointing down to me. Because if the person is crazy, they'll find me. No matter where I am, they'll
Yeah.
find me. And I got to tune her out. And I'm just, I'm thinking, I have the gold, I have the money, and it made my day financially. You have the gold. Why haven't you walked away yet? And I tune her back in. What is she? She's still babbling. What is she saying? And she says again that it's very powerful. No, 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 no. I'm the High Wizard. There could be between 2 and 5 of us in the world, but the number could be as low as 1. And at some point, I might have been the only one High Wizard out of 6 or 7 billion people. That is a power trip and a half. And she's
100%.
trying to tell me that this blessed miraculous metal can do something to me. No. I'm going to take it in my hand, I'm going to squeeze it, and I'm going to tell her that it's worthless. Because at that time, you could hand me a feather and say, this was used in a magic spell. What was it? And I could grab the feather and say, this was used in a protection spell. Or hand me an onyx stone, and I could grab that and say, this was used in a death spell. Or you could hand me a diamond, and I could say, this wasn't used in anything. Your friend found this at Goodwill and made up a story about it. It's worthless. Yeah. So I know that whatever this blessed miraculous metal is, I'm going to feel it, and it's going to be worthless. And then I'm going to toss it on the floor or slam it on my counter, and I'm going to tell her how worthless it is. And if she gets offended, I don't care. She's challenging me. Or if she decides she wants to get her money back, that's fine. I'll do that. Even if she wants to call my manager. I'm the GM. My manager is the regional. You want to call the regional and complain? Do that. Because I make my days, my week, my month, my quarter, and my year financially. And my boss is never going to believe I insulted somebody to their face. She's going to say, it's probably your tie, your long hair, your clothes, your cologne, something like that. Maybe she didn't like your smile. So it's not your fault. So I'm all ready to tell her these things. I stick my hand out. She's giddy because I'm willing to take it. She drops it in my hand and I clench my fist around it because I'm going to tell her these things. And I don't care if she gets offended or has her feelings hurt. Oh, boo-hoo. But instead, I clench my fist around it and my store and my mall completely disappear. And I'm standing in a darkened void. And this woman tells me about the magic spell I did last night, and that's of the devil. And I've split over 100 churches, and that's of the devil. And I've committed over 100 abortions, and that's of the devil. And she says like 8 or 9 other things, and everything ends with, and that's of the devil. And when I first went here, I wanted to hit her with an energy burst and knock her back and try and find my way out of this darkened void. But now that she knows everything about me, let's go back to me being the High Wizard. And maybe I was the only one. I didn't have the magical ability to hand somebody a worthless gold-colored piece of tin, transport both of us to a darkened void, and know all their sins. Her magic is stronger than mine, and I was the High Wizard. I am terrified of this woman. If I attack her with magic, she'll destroy me. I don't know what to do. I'm starting to sweat. I'm in a panic. I'm in panic mode. And she says again, the Blessed Mother is calling you into her army. And instantly, like a grace from the Holy Spirit, I knew that was the Mother of God, which is an extremely strange revelation for a former Baptist to have. We would rather shoot ourselves in the face with a shotgun than say Mother of God. And when I realized it was the Mother of God, she showed up. She took me by the hand that had the miraculous medal in it, and she smiled at me. And it was a smile I knew I didn't deserve. I was acutely aware of my 146 assisted abortions. And she turned me around. Divine Mercy Jesus was standing behind me. I didn't know what Divine Mercy was. I knew I've got these rays of light shooting out of his heart, and they're hitting like around me and over me and under me and through me. And I knew in that instant I did not sell my soul to the devil when I was 13. I knew that Jesus Christ was my Lord and Savior. I knew all my magic, my occult, my Satanism, and my New Age was false. And I knew everything Catholic was truth. And the Blessed Mother told me my job was to help her end abortion. And then I opened my hand and I'm back in my store, back in my mall. This woman, Marianne Wickman, is still talking to me. She tells me that she works for Father Joe Whalen. She's his personal assistant, that he's so busy he doesn't even have time to talk to her. While she's telling me this, her cell phone rings. And she looks down. She goes, "This is Father Joe. I've got to take it." I'm like, "Yeah, you just said all that. Go ahead." So at that time, Father Joe was starting to go deaf. So he talked like everybody was going deaf. So she
Yeah.
says, "Hello, Father Joe. What can I help you with?" "Can you hand the phone to the young man you're talking to?" So she hands me the phone. I'm shaking like Ozzy Osbourne. I'm like, "Hello? Welcome to the faith. Hand the phone back to Marianne." I hand the phone back to her and he hangs up on her. Then her daughter comes up to the counter. She says, "Would you go out to the truck and bring this man one of each of everything?" Daughter runs outside. We get two more phone calls like the first one. And then the daughter comes back in with a paper grocery bag filled with pamphlets. Why do Catholics believe this or do that? A Catholic Bible, and like over 100 Lighthouse Catholic media discs. And then she tells me where she goes to Mass. And I started going the very next day. And the next day, I'm there with my ex wife. And at the consecration, I see Jesus. And I thought everybody in that room was seeing what I saw, that if you were Catholic, you saw Jesus. And I asked my ex wife, I said, "Do you see that?" She was, "What?" I said, "That man up there on the stage." She was, "That's the priest." I said, "No, the other guy." She was, I don't see anybody else." I said, "You don't see it because you're not Catholic." So I thought when I was given that medal and Jesus and Mary showed up, I was instantly Catholic. And then I found out that's not true. I had to go through an RCIA class. And then I also found out that there's a place I can go where I can see Jesus anytime I want. And I was like, "You're kidding me. Is there like a sign up sheet for that?" I mean, like, do I have to go there, like sign my name, and then I have to wait like a few years? And then they'll tell me, "Hey, your block of time is coming up. You have like 4 hours you can go, and you have to go during that 4 hours, or you won't be able to go for another 5 years." And they're looking at me like I've got three heads. Like, no, just go. And I'm like, "You're kidding me. There's a line to get in to see Elvis, and he's been dead over 40 years. So I go. Shock number one, we're the only other car in the parking lot. Shock number two, there's no line to get in. Shock number three, we open the chapel door. It's me, my ex-wife, this woman, and Jesus. And this woman looks up like a deer in the headlights, and she packs her stuff as fast as she can go. And if this was an Olympic event, she got gold. And then she says, "You can't leave till someone else comes in." And bam, she's out the door. And I thought, why would I leave? I'm in a room with God.
Yeah.
So that ends up being a hangout. Like I'd go there anywhere from 30 minutes to 18 hours a day. And I'm having a great time. And St. Raphael looks for me as spiritual director. And they find Father Anthony Gramlich. He was the rector for the National Shrine of Divine Mercy in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. And he talks to me for about 3 hours and tells me that I might need an exorcism, but I at least need a deliverance. So I went back to my priest, Monsignor Lavalle, and I said, "This is what he says." And he goes, "I'm thinking that you're sitting in adoration between 30 minutes and 18 hours a day. No demon would be willing to do that. I'm also thinking that whenever you had your conversion and Jesus and Mary showed up, that whatever demons were with you had the hell scared out of them and they left. Because I'll do a deliverance, but you don't need an exorcism. So he did a deliverance. And I had a satanic gift at that time. And I didn't realize it was a satanic gift. And it left me when I got the deliverance. And then I officially came into the church. That was in January of '08. I officially came into the church in May of '08. And then I started working with St. Raphael until 2010. And then I felt like I needed to start my own ministry and I needed a cool name for it. And so I had met the Blessed Mother and I found out about this guy named Blessed Bartolo Longo, that now he's Saint Bartolo Longo, but he had grown up Catholic, baptized as a Catholic and raised as a Catholic. And then he converted to being a Satanist. And then he became a satanic high priest. And then he reverted back to Catholicism and he became a Catholic priest. And he was so worried that he was going to go to hell. And the Blessed Mother appeared to him and said, anyone that propagates my rosary will not go to hell. So, he has a basilica in Pompeii to praying the rosary and to Mary. And so I thought, the Blessed Mother's super cool. Blessed Bartolo Longo is super cool. Saint Benedict was an extremist, and I'm an extremist. So, and then Padre Pio, used to wrestle with demons and could see. Like he said, if you could see with spiritual eyes, there's enough demons to blot out the sun.
Yeah.
And knowing that all of these things, but the Blessed Mother, Blessed Bartolo Longo, Saint Padre Pio, Saint Benedict ministry doesn't roll off the tongue. And I was meeting a new saint here, a new saint there. I'm always learning about somebody new. And I thought, here in the United States, we're all about inclusion. Maybe I could do something like that. So I named my ministry All Saints Ministry. So now I have all the saints that are currently there and any future saints that happen to get there, I'll still have those too. So I named it All Saints Ministry. My first interview was in 2010 on the Drew Mariani Show. And since then, I have probably around 250 conferences under my belt and probably close to 300 interviews under my belt. And as a result of all that, I got to appear on here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for having me.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Well done, my friend. Well done. So, as far as all that, the whole spiritual warfare aspect and all that, have you had any Satanists convert over to Catholicism or Christianity with, like with your testimony and all that throughout the years?
Yes.
Awesome.
And I've also helped a lot of Satanists get exorcism.
Yeah.
Finding priests that could do that.
Yeah.
And there was a woman that belonged to get this name, she belonged to the Joy of Satan.
Okay.
And the Joy of Satan coven, they have a manifesto on their website that tells a story, and it's about God being the bad guy and Satan being the good guy.
Yep.
And they try and infiltrate Catholic churches and bring them down from the inside.
Yep.
And that's what she was doing. And she got blessings from God, so many of them, that she told the priest what she was doing. And she had to go through deliverance, started off with, and then with exorcism.
Yeah.
And, she's very grateful to not be in that world anymore. He had showed her the pink like a pill video.
Yeah.
And she was like, that guy's very powerful. And he says, I can tell you somebody that used to be him. And she called me and she was going through deliverance, and I got her in contact with an exorcist so she could have exorcism instead. And that was like 12 years ago.
Man.
And she's been free for a long time.
Oh, praise God, man. That's good stuff. Good stuff, my friend. Oh, buddy. I got to have you back on again, brother, sometime, man, just to talk more. Good stuff, brother. What, I know you're a busy man and all that. If people need to get a hold of you or email you or anything like that, where can people contact you at?
And my website is allsaintsministry.org. My email address is mysticforgod@yahoo.com. And my phone number is 802-578-6554. If you could post all that.
I will. Yeah, yeah. But matter of fact, yeah, I always do. Everybody I actually interview, I always have them shoot me all the information, and then I post it in the show notes. So when I describe what the podcast is about, whoever I'm interviewing, their name and everything, all the information underneath, it'll click to it and it'll go strictly to their websites or emails or whatever. So, yeah. So after we're done, yeah.
We're also having a fundraiser right now, so that's on my website. And okay. I have a conference coming up. What are the dates of that? July what? 11th and 12th in Newark, New Jersey. And we're going to have an exorcist there, myself, a 96-year-old cardinal, and the cardinal has the ability to read souls. And we also have Monsignor Esif, who will be there via Zoom, and Yves Jock, and I feel like I'm missing somebody. Tommy, a guy named Tommy Houlihan. He's a tattoo artist that won't do New Age or Satanic or witchcraft tattoos.
Yeah.
I mean, he only does, like a good, decent tattoo.
Yeah.
Nothing that St. Paul says not to do. Like everything you do has to be righteous and pure and all of that. And he only does tattoos that bring glory to God. Amen
to that. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Right on, Zach. I appreciate you, man. Yeah, like I said, after we're done with this podcast, I'll chat with you for a little bit, and then I'll let you go. But yeah, like I said, guys who are listening, I will have all his information in the show notes, and if you guys want to contact him, shoot him an email, give him a text, whatever. So, but Zach, I got your number, brother. You and I will be texting back and forth. I know that. We will keep in contact, dude. I'll be praying for you, brother. Praying for you and your family. Blessings over you guys. Protection for sure. And yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on, being open, being honest, being humble, and being a righteous warrior and a watchman on the wall, Zach. I appreciate you, man. So
thank you for having me.
Oh, for sure, brother. All right, don't go anywhere yet. I'm gonna close out, and then we'll chat for a second. I'll let you go, brother. Okay.
All right.
All right, guys. This has been a mind blow. Good stuff. I've heard a story before, but it's awesome hearing it from literally from Zach. So, all right, guys. If you guys got any questions or anything like that for Zach, I will have all his information in the show notes. You guys hit him up. Yeah, but if you guys got any stories or anything like that, any prayer requests, go ahead and shoot me an email, cryptidwarfare@gmail.com, cryptidwarfare@gmail.com. Hope you guys have a blessed week. And remember, guys, in Ephesians 6:12, we're not just wrestling against flesh and blood, but against principalities and rulers of this age, guys. So be blessed. Have a good week. Be safe. And we're out.